Joining me is our panel, Eugene Scott, senior politics reporter at Axios, Symone Sanders-Townsend, the former advisor to Vice President Harris, host of Symone on MSNBC, and Brendan Buck, former advisor to speakers John Boehner and Paul Ryan. Here's one thing I think we know for sure, Eugene, is that no matter what happens to the DeSantis presidential campaign, if he's taken the oath of office up there on January 20, 2025, or if he doesn't make it to Iowa, the Twitter announcement will be the first sentence of the campaign, right? Either he overcame it or it was a metaphor for the disaster. That's fair?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that people will be talking about for a while. It's such a...
It's going to leave a mark.
Yeah, but not even the mark on some of the people he needs to reach. Like, first of all, there are a lot of people not on Twitter who he needs to vote for him, especially outside of his tribe. And choosing this way to connect with people or make this very important announcement could signal to them that he's not really interested in talking to them, something that people already think about DeSantis based on his policies and the positions he's taken.
Symone, you've been on presidential campaigns. Talk about announcements.
This was wild.
Just the announcement. But did you ever cede control? Talk about how campaigns, how often do you see them cede control of announcement day to another entity?
You don't, because there are very few big stages you get on any campaign, but especially a presidential campaign, where you have the most eyeballs and the attention. Your announcement day is one of them. I would argue the first debate is one of those, and then those are the only two things you're guaranteed. If you get to the general election, it is the day you name your running mate. Again, biggest stages. And so because of that, this is your opportunity to introduce yourself to America, to the voters. And although Ron DeSantis has high name ID, right, governor of Florida, you cannot assume everyone knows you. Bio is very important. That's what a speech should do. Now, I don't agree with a lot of the things that, for instance, were in Tim Scott's speech, but Tim Scott had a good announcement. He gave a little bio. He gave you a little background. If you didn't know much about Tim Scott, you walked away from his announcement knowing more if you saw clips and pieces of it. The other important part of an announcement for a presidential campaign is you obviously want to raise some money, okay? You want to raise money so that people see you. How do people see you? You put out a nice video, you have a nice speech, and then on network television, on cable television, and on local television, they run the B-roll, they run the clips from your speech of you looking presidential and people behind you waving American flags. Yay, America. There was not much of that. Even Ron DeSantis' video, which I was glad to see that the campaign did think enough to have a visual component, it was just him walking, talking. There was no interaction of him with individuals. He has been out here on the campaign trail, but not the campaign trail, for a number of weeks now, prior to officially announcing. So there was opportunity to have video or pictures of him interacting with real people, talking about why he's running for them. I think that this is a campaign that seems very online, playing to what the media apparatus is saying, what folks are saying on social media, and that is not real life.
Brendan, I will say one thing, and then I want you to chime in on all the different ways you want to chime in. But we all know how Washington works. We're almost at 24 hours since this debacle. Yeah. If the idea of Elon Musk and Twitter Spaces and Ron DeSantis was the idea of some campaign staffer or strategist, the tire tracks on that person would already be visible, and we know who it is. This has the sneaking suspicion of a candidate idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, you should hire Symone.
Unfortunately, I'm unavailable.
Look, I think the problem for Ron DeSantis at this point is that there's kind of a narrative forming that maybe he's not so good at this stuff. Yeah. And he's had a number of missteps. Every time he seemed to have popped up in the last several months, it's been for bad things, whether it's Ukraine or Disney or whatever it is. And one of the most dangerous things in politics is a narrative getting set, because it becomes self-reinforcing.
Unless you're Donald Trump.
Well, certainly, but everything sort of feeds on itself, and all of a sudden, every time you do something, it's like, oh, there goes Ron DeSantis again, screwing something up, and that may catch hold if he doesn't turn it around pretty quick.
Which is the point Trump made in his tweet, right? That this person who can't even lay out an announcement, how can he run this country?
But I want to say, the louder somebody talks, the more you got to acknowledge they're nervous. Donald Trump obsesses over Ron DeSantis right now.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely does seem nervous.
Let's not pretend DeSantis, all of these problems, there's no doubt. It still rattles Trump.
Yeah, which is why I think, more likely than not, Donald Trump will show up on at least a few of the debate stages as we get closer to January 2024. Because remember, Iowa caucuses are January 8th. That's when the Iowa voters go to their caucuses, i.e. their polls. Look, I think again, we've talked about this. Is it early? Is it late? We're right in the middle in that sweet spot. I think we have to see these candidates out on the campaign trail. The polls that you put up and showed, these are still national polls. There's some, we haven't seen, I would argue, very great polling yet coming out of Iowa, New Hampshire, or South Carolina.
These numbers have dipped, but not as badly.
Exactly.
From my understanding.
And
just
so,
not as badly.
And so those are the numbers that matter. How are voters responding to each and every one of these candidates? Remains to be seen. Is there a chicken salad to be made out of this, Brendan? And does he know how to do it?
Yeah, that's the question. Is he actually good at politics? And so, that's the ultimate question I have with Ron DeSantis now. Look, he got reelected by 19 points in the state of Florida. That's not nothing. But a lot of that was just built off of how he made a bet on COVID, and it played off.
Yeah,
it paid off. Yeah. I mean, that worked out well for him. Whether or not he's actually...
I got a bet on the Heat winning the Eastern Conference Finals. I put down a month and a half ago. I'm hoping that bet pays off.
Yeah, but whether or not he's agile enough and talented enough to navigate some of these things, well, look, I think Donald Trump certainly worries about Ron DeSantis, but he doesn't just worry. He goes on the attack. And I think that's one of the reasons why you've seen Donald Trump's numbers go up and Ron DeSantis' numbers go down, is because he takes swings at him. And Ron DeSantis has yet demonstrated that he knows not only how to take the punch, but to throw one back and put some points on the board against Donald Trump. And until he figures that out, he's going to remain far, far behind.
Sometimes I wonder if Trump is mostly worried about DeSantis, or if he's just angry and offended by DeSantis. It could be.
Or is he just going after who's ever number two?
Yeah, right.
This is a campaign. That's what you should do.
That's right.
Yeah, he's going after everybody else. No one seems to want to go after Donald Trump, but Donald Trump's happy to take swings at
And he understands the media narrative.
All the other yes, he does.
Yeah.
Well, this to me, Eugene, is DeSantis' biggest problem. If you have progressive Twitter and MAGA Twitter all piling on DeSantis, that's an ugly day.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's much of a DeSantis Twitter. I mean, we see people defending him who seem to want something Trumpy, but an alternative, but they aren't the loudest voices, and they aren't controlling the narrative, and he's not really giving them new material to show them why he could be better than what, is currently being said of him.
Let me pivot to the debt ceiling. Symone, we have two polls that indicate the White House has lost the messaging war here. How'd that happen?
I don't even think we needed the polls to know. Just ask the people up on Capitol Hill. Look, I think it happened because this was this was a complicated issue, and at the beginning, all you heard from the White House a consistent message: the president is not going to negotiate on the debt ceiling. He will talk about the budget. He will not talk about the debt ceiling. These without forcing Speaker McCarthy to put his budget on the table. You are negotiating on the debt ceiling, and without being able to pass a clean debt ceiling. Without talking about the budget, you are negotiating on the debt ceiling. And so I think such forceful language on the front end, it's what they believed. I'm pretty sure it was, but obviously it wasn't a strategy that they could hold to. And so the pivot now is, well, the media apparatus does not understand the stakes.
The media's fault.
And it is not being framed correctly. And I think it is actually being framed quite accurately. I think the only misstep, if you will, that the media apparatus had is giving Kevin McCarthy so much credit for barely passing his debt ceiling bill, because now there's no even guarantee that he has the votes to, even if folks agree on the negotiation.
But Brendan, the real test is, you've heard the Chip Roy stuff, right? You're hearing the Byron Donalds stuff, and they're not going to vote for McCarthy's deal. Will McCarthy survive? I mean, can he land this? He's won the messaging war. And I know he's trying to tell, hey, guys, look, I got him to the table. We're winning politically. And I heard Byron Donalds say, I don't care that we're winning politically. I want to make an impact. Can he land this?
This whole process could not have gone better for Kevin McCarthy, where everyone is playing Kevin McCarthy's game. He's winning the PR game, but we also always just end up in the same spot no matter what. It's almost like none of that matters. We have a bipartisan deal and nobody's going to like it. And look, he starts off from a really strong position. Like, there were not a lot of people making veiled threats about him going into this. Like, they've all been sticking by him. I'm much more concerned now, though, about his ability to pass it and to get a majority of the majority. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. That is the mantra of that conference. You need a majority of House Republicans to vote for it, and it's going to be tight.
Eugene, I played a clip of Hakeem Jeffries. I've spent a lot of time with Hakeem Jeffries, on the record, off the record. I never heard a more unenthusiastic Hakeem Jeffries trying to sell, hey, guys, here's this chicken salad. We're not going to cut veterans' benefits.
Yeah, I was at that conference, and he made it very clear, you know, where he stands and what he thinks Democrats value and what he hopes will not happen. But the reality is, he doesn't know what this agreement is going to be yet. And
is there going to be a majority of House Democrats having to bring this across the finish line? I mean,
they should have spent more time trying to get the 5 Republicans on board with them for a discharge petition. I think that's my Monday morning quarterback analysis.
Brendan, I mean, I don't mean to, I'm going to get in trouble here, but could a majority of Republicans, are there a majority of, I mean, I think this deal has to have a majority of Republicans.
Oh, I mean, that's what Kevin McCarthy, but I'm not sure they will. Kevin McCarthy is projecting a lot of confidence that he will be able to. I think that will be very difficult to do.
If the Democrats have to deliver more votes for Kevin McCarthy's deal, I don't want to be at the next lunch between Hakeem Jeffries and Joe Biden. Anyway, Eugene, Symone, and Brendan, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.